All right. Oh, wow. Literally last moment we extended out to 17 drivers. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm your host for today's podcast, Insane Leader 13. I am joined once again by two-time NX1CS Series champion PZ French Frontman as we are preparing to get underway for the 20th round here of XRL's X3 division, going down into Mexico for one of the older circuits that have gone through significant renovations over the years. Championship-wise, things are heating up in the manufacturers. McLaren, with a big bounce back, coming home first and third last week, has brought them within 20 points of Ferrari in the Manufacturers' Championship. Drivers' Championship, though, things are a little bit different. There is a possibility that we can officially crown our new X3 champion today, depending on how the Red Bull of Zola ends up finishing this race in relation to the Ferrari of Schumacher SF7. 17 drivers will be taking the track today, so it does look like we will have a little bit of a fight going on in the first round qualifying. Sorry about that break. I had to run and take care of something a little quickly. We are running a little bit behind schedule when it comes to getting qualifying underway, so expect the race to start to actually end a little bit late. Also of note, for those of you who do care, running at the same time, I think they've just entered their last 2 hours in the last few minutes, is the 24 Hours of Daytona right now going on at the Daytona Sports Car Circuit. 5 categories: GT Amateur, GT Pro, and then LMP3, LMP2, and the new LMD8 Hypercar class going underway at it. Turned into a very interesting event there. If you are afraid of spoilers, you might not want to listen in too much because we may end up talking about that hit and miss throughout this event. But our main focus is going to be more on this circuit and what we're anticipating seeing going the way. Zackle has apparently just lagged out somehow, and Higgs Boston has not been able to get underway. So I don't know if we're going to see Zackle be able to get back in before we're too far into this. All right, here we are. Come on. Game. Game.
Ah, yes. EA stuff.
Um,
You'd have expected that. Alright, here we are.
So, of some things to talk about when we get to here, Mexico has had an interesting history when it comes to open wheel racing. They hosted a lot of races for Formula One back in throughout the majority of the 1980s. Their last event was in 1990. Most notably in that event, Nigel Mansell, who was driving the Ferrari, had a hiccup and a spin in the last quarter of the race and fell out of points-paying positions. And then he squeezed out every last bit of that Ferrari and dragged that thing all the way back to a second place finish. And that's kind of indicative of Nigel Mansell's entire career. Yeah, he had a decent amount of wins, but his more impressive runs almost always were when he had to overcome ridiculous adversity to come home second and third. After that, though, that was back when the stadium section did not exist, and it was just the large Petralda. It was a banked corner, almost IndyCar-style banked corner through there. You could carry a bunch of speed, and that also means you would open up with incredible speed going down the front straightaway also. The big... How do I put this? I understand why the stadium section was brought in, but it really harmed the race in my opinion. In 2002, top-tier open-wheel racing returned to the circuit, but it was not Formula One. It was the Kart Champ Car Series, and that ran here from 2002 until Champ Car was merged into the IRL to make IndyCar as we know it now in 2000 and after the 2007 season. So in 6 years there, ended up getting a lot of really fun races here as well. Sebastian Bourdais was the best driver in that scenario. Then it went back to Formula One back in the 2010s. In that scenario, there was a significant amount of modifications done to the circuit. The sector, primarily the entirety of Sector 2, was completely redesigned. Turns 3, 4, 5, 6. I think it was 3, 4, 5, 6. The little after the second DRS, 4, 5, 6. That section's been completely redone. The S's were completely redone. Stadium section was redone a little bit also. But other than that, the track is still mostly the same, and it's continued to hold Formula One races ever since. Formula E also runs here, and they actually had their season opener for, I believe, what season it was, season 8 or 9 for them, just last week. No, 2 weeks ago. They had their season opener, but they run a very alternate layout, one that almost can't even be compared to what you actually see here. So, yeah, Formula E's layout is very bizarre. I like it, but it's a very bizarre layout. Also, the NASCAR's second-tier division, they're currently known as Xfinity Series, was called the Busch Series back then. They ran here between 2000 for about 4 years, between 2004 and 2007, if memory serves correctly. They used to have a big chicane on the front straightaway. They took that out for the last 2 years, and that significantly improved the racing here. And then the NASCAR Peak Mexico Series also runs here. They run sometimes the oval layout. There is a 1 mile flat oval that you can make here that uses part of the front straightaway, then circles around and goes and misses the stadium section, then uses the bank patrol to the corner. And then sometimes when they're not using that, they'll use the full proper road course. I can't think of any other significant notable series that have run here that I should bring up. And there is a Red Bull that has gone off in the S's, and that is... Who is that? Because it's Dr. Phil. And the front wing is gone from that car. Mantic Meerkat has gone to the top, and now Collie Boy with a 118.321. Herbago invalidated his lap. I think he was trying to give his teammate Meerkat a bit of a tow, but now he's on a proper flyer, all on his own now. Interesting thing to consider, last week, when the series was at COTA, the McLarens, they came home, and Herbago's around! Interestingly enough, that didn't look like it was an aero spin. It looked like what happened there is that he got the rear tires on a curb and then upset the car at slow speed because he entered the first of the S's at relatively low speed at bad angle. I think that's what spun the car rather than anything aerodynamically.
The thing that is most likely to happen in that sort of situation is where the car, I mean, it's pretty much known by that, but underneath the car and the other underbody, there's a plank, and what happens is, at least in this instance, you probably went a little bit too, was it wide or maybe a little too tight in the corner, and the plank was on the rumble strip, and that is something that can happen and will sometimes offset the car's balance, and that is probably what happened.
He's not the first person to have an incident there, as Dr. Phil also had an accident in that section. In prior games, at least, I don't know how it's going to handle in this game, but in prior games, with the older cars that were extremely downforce sensitive, it was almost impossible to follow through that because of the sheer amount of aero wake. And then also, a couple of that in the last game in particular, the curbs were very, very dangerous because the nose was very close to the car.
In the middle of the stadium section.
It's a very interesting thing to see. You don't normally see spins in the stadium section. But as I was saying, yeah, the nose of the car was very low to the ground, and the rear of the car was really high up and kind of skittish. So going through the S's through there was very, very difficult in the last two games in particular. Mantic Meerkat's retired in the pits. He says that his 118.437 should be good enough to get him into the next round. With only 17 drivers fighting for 15 spots, I'm inclined to agree. I also think that time in the 18 will probably lock you into Q2 without issue.
I mean, unless a couple of people are really getting in the 117s and a half. Because speaking about lap times, and I did my research on that, as I usually do, as in for real life, the fastest race lap was clocked by Valtteri Bottas in 2021 with a 1:17.774, but the fastest quali lap was Max Verstappen back in 2019, a 1:14.758.
I can almost guarantee you
we...
the main reason Bottas had such a wicked lap in 2019 was because he was in another car's tow. The straightaways here are so bloody long, and this track's relatively high up, relatively high above sea level, so the air density isn't as high as it normally would be. So that means that lower air density, long straightaways, and then you get a draft, you really can open up the power amazingly in a straight line, and maybe enough to overcome a loss in time in Sector 2.
I mean, I'm pretty sure this is also this track that we've seen the fastest top speed a Formula 1 car ever clocked. And if my memory is correct, that was Felipe Massa back in 2016 with a 300 and either 72 or 74 kilometers an hour. I'm not fluent enough with the miles per hour, so do your conversion on your own, please.
I get you're scared of American units. No, I know that's not the case.
No, I am not scared. I am not scared of measuring things in football fields per moon landing.
So you said what, 382 kilometers an hour?
Either 372 or 374.
That'd be 231 miles an hour at 372.
Oh yeah, and mind you, it was with the Williams as well.
Well, do remember though that in 2014, 2015, 2016, Williams were using the Mercedes engine, and Mercedes had basically an extra year, almost a year and a half, to develop the the V6 hybrids. And because that, the Mercedes engine was by far the most powerful engine throughout those years, basically until the very end of that set of regs, which ended in 21, Mercedes had the best engine. In the first 3 years, the engine advantage was so massive that you could take an absolute crap box, toss the Mercedes engine into it, and it would turn out well. The fact that Williams didn't win any races in that period is shocking, because Williams legitimately was the second or third best team throughout the majority of that era, just because the engine was so powerful, allowed them to just outpower any handicaps or any deficiencies in that car whatsoever. Now that advantage fell away once he got into 2017, but it still really kind of made the point that, yeah, Mercedes had the best engine by far. I will never forget seeing the top two Mercedes at Bahrain fighting with each other and still pulling from the rest of the field by about a second to two per lap while actively fighting.
Looks like someone tops the charts now, other than the, well, previous top three that all retired in the pits. Rubago, a 118.163.
What I want to do real quickly,
I believe we'll see sub 118 laps.
I think so too. What I want to do real quickly is I want to ride on board silently with Extra Zola for a single lap. Now he's on the medium tires, but I'm really curious to see what he can pull off on these mediums. So we're gonna go silently for a lap with Zola second in the title fight and see what he can pull off here at Mexico. 1:18.529, and he did that on the medium tires. So it's the fifth fastest time we've seen thus far, and we have seen 9 people thus far put their times in the 1:18s today.
Oh, we have someone else on the medium tires, and the XRL Flavor back at the Ferrari team. Let's see what he is up to.
Higgs Boston is retired in the pit, so he will not attempt to set a lap in the session, and Flavor actually goes ahead of Dr. Phil on the mediums. He's on the 19.5, while Phil was only able to set 20.1. At the moment, Zakal still has yet to get his lap in, but he is in the middle of that now. Snake and Schumacher SF7 both have yet to get out onto the circuit. For Schumacher, I imagine they're just staying back and just waiting to see what to expect from the track before they actually go out and tackle. One other thing to consider, I got to talk with the Ferrari drivers before we got underway at the race. Earlier this week, I think it was on like Tuesday, no, it was on Friday actually. They said that they did not think that the one-stop strategy was the best way to go. And then I got to talk with the next 2 driver, that was Jess Sweden, who is another person I have experience racing with back and forth in Motorsport 7. Sweden also said that a 2-stop medium to hard or hard to medium strategy is no good. The mediums and the hards perform at basically the exact same level right now, and you basically would be better off going soft, medium, soft, or soft, soft, medium, or medium, soft, soft, something like that. But basically, I've been hearing a lot of talk that a 2-stop strategy would be keen over a 1-stop strategy here today. So,
With the two big slow sectors in on the track, and I'm talking about turn 4 to turn 6, which is the, how can I call it, the hook of the harpoon? Yeah, we'll go with that. And the stadium sections, I think I'd rather go out on soft tires and see if I can make the most of them in those really slow sections. Something I wouldn't probably be able to do on a set of mediums or even hards, for that matter.
weather forecast for today's event says that there is
Oh,
at
and
maximum.
there's spin by Zakol, and he's
Oh,
out.
and Zakul is out of it.
The
He has
front right is
crashed in
pulled
the
off.
S's, and that was on his cooldown lap, mind you. I was actually watching Zakul on that cooldown lap while also conversing with the weather forecast, but Zakul has crashed out on his cooldown lap in the S's, and that is going to take him out of qualifying. He will not advance to the next round of quality.
Oh, and looks like Schumacher is doing his lap at the moment, entering turn 4.
All right, and coming into the party right now is Zakul. Zakul, go ahead, include your audio. You had already set a lap. You were on a cooldown lap, and then you got the car destroyed in an accident in the S's. What happened that sent it around there?
I took the corner a bit wide, hit the apex, and just completely lost all grip coming off that apex. Sent me straight into the wall. So.
All right, nightmare circumstance there. It looks like you're going to be starting near the back of the grid. Akrosty, do you think you can recover from this and finish this race in the points today?
I'm hoping so, yeah. It was a mistake, ran wide on a corner. I know where I went wrong, and I'll work on that throughout the race so it doesn't happen again, yeah.
All right, thanks for jumping in and talking with us. Big accident.
No
Hopefully
problem.
things go better for you in the event itself. While we were talking with Zakul, Schumacher crossed the line.
And that was
hit
a monster lap, 1:17.572. He is over half a second clear of second place Rubago. I was
mind you, this is
expecting
just Q1.
below 118 lap times, but shit, they went fast. And now my hopes are up.
So now the question is Schumacher, like, does he have an excessive amount of pace going on today, or did he just, and because normally in Q1, especially if you're almost guaranteed to advance to the next round, normally you want to hold back and you don't want to go really crazy with anything. Schumacher waited until very late and has only set a single flying lap on one set of softs, and it blew everyone out.
That is really all you need to do.
But yeah,
I mean,
but
my
my
man's out
question,
here just straight up asserting dominance.
yeah, but my question is, could this is this planned? Are they going to go out and they're going to try and get into the heads of the McLarens and the Red Bulls today? Mind you, 99 points out is Herbago in the championship fight, and 92 points out is Zola in the championship fight. With 5 races left to go, there are 135 points up for grabs, 25 maximum for winning a race, then 1 for pole position, 1 for a fastest lap. That is the maximum a driver can get in a race, 27 points. Mathematically, those two are both still in contention. Realistically, though, is Schumacher going out of his way and trying to knock that out right away so that way he can go ahead and gain a easy early foothold in the championship drivers-wise, and he can focus the remaining 4 races in the season on
Dr.
just
Phil
getting...
spun outside of 9. Sorry, outside of 10 or 11.
That's the same place he's went around earlier, though. Mind you, both times Dr. Phil has spun in the S's, it was with the soft tires. He seems to have more grip when he runs the mediums.
I mean, I believe it's also a racing kind of mistake. We'll see. And I believe that is also what took out Zackel. He went wide, the plank was on the rumble strip or curbs, and then he lost the back end.
It's true, although Zackel did it, I think, closer to turn 8 instead of turn 9 and 10 in the S's.
I mean, it's also really easy to get how can I say it? Dollar store maggots and Beckett's. Yeah, we'll go with that. it's really easy to go a little bit wider, a little bit too narrow, and then put the plank on the rumble strips, and then lose all grip at the back. And mind you, those cars are really sensitive throttle response. So really easy to lose all grip by just that's called oversteering. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the other thing to consider is, you know, really sensitive throttle response. You consider that you're trying to basically control anywhere from, I've heard as low as 925 as far as 1050 horsepower just through a single gas pedal. Yeah, it's going to be a little bit hard. That means that we're talking millimeters of movement on the throttle pedal can dump dozens of extra HP through the engine. So, yeah, it's not exactly going to be easy. First round qualifying is over. Basically ended up being decided after Zackel crashed out, and then Pingu, like about a minute after Zackel's crash, set a competent time. But right now, this is the thing that's really interesting to me. You look at the spread from 2nd to 11th, that is 10 drivers all within a second of each other. You take Schumacher out of the consideration, and it's really, really close near the top of the grid. Now, Zola set his time on the mediums, as did Flavor and Dr. Phil. I don't know how much more time those drivers have, but that is something to consider. I think it's very likely that the drivers we see 11 through 15, so that's Dave, Flavor, Dr. Phil, Imperium, and Pingu, I think those 5 are the most likely ones to get squeezed out in round 2 of qualifying, frankly, because I don't know how much time you're going to actually be able to gain around here.
I mean, obviously, switching from mediums to soft, I believe you can shave between a quarter and half a second around this track. And yet again, that is not factoring in any driver-induced mistakes.
Yeah, the big thing, is...
as you were mentioning, very skeptical about this one.
But the big thing is, and I said it earlier, I'll say it again, Dr. Phil has had 2 instances in the S's. Both times he went around the S's, he did it while it was on soft tires, but he was able to keep it together when he was on mediums. There is a possibility that maybe they do not have the Red Bulls set up really well for soft tire performance. So I'm not saying that will or won't factor in, but I'm just saying that is something to consider. First driver out on track is Dragonborn in the Haas.
I mean, one thing to keep in mind also when you are on a slower, less grippier set of tires, you're also a little bit more careful because you know you don't have as much grip as the softer compound.
Speaking of tires, look at Schumacher. Am I wrong? Does he have hards on?
No, you're not hallucinating. He has hards on. And also after that quali lap in Q1, he gave me a hard on. No pun intended.
Well, he's definitely going to be giving himself a hard one here in Q2 if he honestly wants to commit to setting a lap on the hard tires. I'm guessing maybe he's just as erect as we are, though, and all his blood is in the lower section of his body. So he's thinking lower center of gravity in the body and in the car means that he'll be faster. I don't know.
This conversation really reminds me of that time Kimi had an interview at Interlagos, saying by Martin Brundle, saying he missed the presentation by Pele because the man, and I quote him, "I was taking a shit." Quintessential Iceman moment.
Kimi.
We miss you, Kimi.
I don't miss him that much. I really liked Kimi as an individual, but I will also admit that I do think that by about 2017 and on, he had fallen way, way off. But with that said, I'll also go ahead and say this in Kimi's favor. I think Kimi has really established himself as one of the greats, considering that even in his lower years, when he was obviously off pace, he was still probably one of the top 10 drivers in the field.
And do you also factor in Ferrari probably favoring Sebastian Vettel during his last stint at Ferrari?
Yeah, I'm not very big on Vettel. I'm bigger on Kimi, but like honestly, going into 2017, I almost wish we could have seen what could have happened if the focus on that team was on Kimi Räikkönen instead of Vettel.
Spun.
And that's Herbago again. Did it last round of qualifying early on, now he's done it again this round. First driver across the line will be Dragonborn with a 117.948. Not the fastest time. That's actually relatively way off. Here comes a Alfa Romeo, though, to cross the line, and it will be Colleyboy with a 118.469. Okay, what about Schumacher on his hard tires? What is he going to pull off?
Oh, he was wavering on the straightaway. I believe he was still heating his putting some heat in his tires, and now begins the real lap. As other people are crossing the line, Mantic Meerkat at 118.553. There's a yellow in sector 2.
That's an AlphaTauri. Pingu.
He gets going again.
Schumacher's up by 2.7 seconds in sector 1 alone. Is he really going to try and advance into Q3 on hards?
That'd be a baller move. Oh. And after a spin, Pengu goes back to pit lane.
Schumacher backed off. Schumacher backed off a lot going through the S's there. I could actually hear the car like rev really, really low.
But he is still almost 3 seconds up. It is going to look like a high 120, low 119.
I don't think that's going to be enough for him to advance.
I don't think either, but... Oh, this looks...
119.477.
First set of hards, this kind of looks promising.
Yeah, but I have to wonder
this totally won't be enough for qualifications.
Meerkat has had an instant also in the S's now. So the McLarens are really struggling while the Ferraris are just kind of T-posing on the field. Flavor, who's this number 2 driver, set a... Yeah, Herbago goes to the top now, 117.144, but the McLarens are absolutely struggling. It's like one good lap followed by one bad lap, or vice versa. While the Ferraris, Flavor set his fastest time in the last session on mediums. Schumacher is trying to advance on hards right now. There is definitely some mind games going on here. I think the Ferrari drivers are trying to get inside the head of the McLaren drivers and cause them to make mistakes here by saying, yeah, we're just so much faster, we're not even worried about you. Zola in the middle of the lap, as is Flavor right now. Zola was one of the other drivers who set his time on the mediums in Q1, but he is on proper softs this time around. Pingu, I didn't notice this, but Pingu apparently had, when he had his spin, he was trying to set his lap on the medium tires as well. So, if it was Q1, I could understand doing it, but I really don't like wasting rubber like that in Q2. Q2's a lot shorter. The last thing you want is to end up getting caught up in someone else's mess. I mean, if you're that confident, I guess you can go for it, but I really, really do not like that strategy. Absolutely not. 58.138 for Zola at the end of Sector 2 as he goes into the stadium section now. I really like the way the stadium section looks, but I agree with you 100%. It is just not good for the flow of the track whatsoever. I wish there was a way to adjust it.
Flavor in the top 5. Zola, second fastest, 1:17.936.
So now Schumacher is on the outside looking in. Pingu is still on track with a set of mediums right now. So Pingu is going to try and commit to staying this lap on medium tires. Imperium is on outlap. Snake and Dr. Phil both on track right now as well. Also, I've said it before, I'm going to say it again. God, I love Mercedes W13. I love Mercedes entrance visually that they had for this generation of regs. I like Ferraris. Ferraris is my favorite, but I've said it before, I'll say again. The Ferrari car is a car that you marry. You marry and you build an empire with that car. The Mercedes is that really annoying minx that stands on the corner that you pick up for a crazy one-night stand. All right, here comes Snake to the line. 117.733. Snake is an X3 veteran, and he's had a rough go of it this season. He's put together some good qualifying runs, but has not been able to properly keep it together to the end of a race itself. Here comes Pingu on his medium tires, 121.776. Good lord, that is a 2.3 second difference. Mind you, Schumacher, he set his time on the hards. He's gotten back to the softs now, and he's in the middle of an outlap. But Pingu is 2.3 seconds off of someone on the hards, and 2.3 seconds off of the slowest soft tire runner thus far. Imperium is the last driver who has yet to set a time. As it stands right now, Veli is on the bubble with a 118.986, and Dr. Phil is on the outside looking at the inside. Pain of the tires fill his head. War waged here for Poland, since I found Arrows the answer, but the victory lies in the hands of the draft that will come into play right off of the line. And you can't rely on the way the car is fielding the curbs, condemn you all the time. I should stop trying to parody late 80s and early 90s Christian rock songs, as Imperium has a gigantic slide going through the stadium section, tripped that rear tire over one of the curbs like what you were talking about, Peasy, and that thing went a full 50-degree slide from the rear going one side to the other. He kept it
Schumacher,
together.
end of sector 2. Faster by 1.3 seconds.
So if he keeps that up, he'll probably be in the 17s. I think he'll be there with Zola, Snake, and Herbago when he crosses the line.
Big Twitch out of 17, third fastest, 117.817.
All right, so this is where things are getting really interesting, because you look at this, the number 2 drivers for all of your top 3 teams are at risk getting knocked out. Meerkat's only 9th right now, Flavor is 8th, and Paging Dr. Phil is buried all the way down 13th, and we have only 4.5 minutes left in the session. Although I say that, Meerkat's nearly half a second up right now.
E-Tech J. LeBand improving, yes, good enough for 61.18.069. Nice.
So the Haas's are matching each other in pace right now. Meerkat's on the bubble, but not for much longer. He crosses the line with a 17.870. He improves by 2/3 of a second to go up to 4th. So it is now the number 2 Ferrari of Flavor who is on the bubble. Eggity is still on the same set of sauce that he's been on for a while. He's run this set of sauce for 3 laps. I don't know what the plan is here. He's down on time significantly right now because he's not utilizing the ERS, so this is probably his cooldown lap. Veli and Dr. Phil both on out laps now, so they're about to get out there, do something. Zola retires now. He's confident at that 17.936. And that's not going to make things easier for Dr. Phil. I'm sure Dr. Phil would love to get a tow. That was something else. 2 weeks ago at Suzuka, there was a lot of controversy over some on-track incidents that happened between the Red Bulls. It's come out since that the Red Bulls drivers of Zola and Dr. Phil, they do not talk or interact with each other whatsoever. Compared to the McLarens and the Ferraris. The McLarens have been right on top of each other, and Meerkat's gone out of his way to sacrifice many races of his to help Hirago out. And the Ferrari camp, I know for a fact that the Ferrari drivers spend the entire week practicing with each other, and then when they do the races, they are usually in a party just by themselves. So complete dysfunction in the Red Bull camp. This is going to be controversial, but I'm going to say it. I think this complete dysfunction in the Red Bull camp has kind of made it to where you have 2 really fast drivers. Neither of them really know what the other one is doing, and it's really hampered them from getting great wins and podiums in the last several weeks. They've rebounded in the Manufacturers' Championship fight, but that team is not nearly as well put together as the Ferrari and the McLaren. And I think
And
that
you
the
can
Red Bulls
you can see that in the Constructors' Championship as well.
Well, even then, in the Constructors' Championship, in Zola's favor, Zola was holding up the Red Bull team solo for about 12 races straight. There was no other Red Bull. Zola was the only Red Bull for a good 12 races straight. And since Dr. Phil has come back, mathematically, the team has recovered enough that they're vaulting themselves back within Manufacturer Championship contention. But they have left a lot of points on the table because they have not been able to figure out, how they're supposed to organize stuff. All right. So Dr. Phil sets a 17.982. Dave is on the bubble right now. Veli, Flavor, Eggity, Imperium, and Pingu are on the outside looking in. And right now, with less than a minute left, Imperium and Pingu are not going to go into the next round of qualifying. So it looks like it's going to be a 4-man shootout for the final round of qualifying here. Is that Schumacher on track?
Yes, it is.
Well, they've not timed. I don't know if they've timed. Yes, they have. They've timed it well. Schumacher is going to try and give Flavor a tow down the main straightaway here. If Flavor can keep the lap clean, this might work out great in his favor. Oh, wow. He is right there. He is right there. Schumacher zooms off to the side, halfway down the straightaway. This means that Flavor won't have any issue when it comes to air on the front of the car going into turn 1. He keeps it clean. All right, this is going to be interesting. Dave is in right now, but Veli and Flavor are trying to sneak in. Here comes Veli. He aborts out of the final corner. Veli will not make it in. E-Diggity is in the middle of the lap. E-Diggity spins, and that's right in front of the Ferraris. So it's Flavor versus Dave. Did Flavor let off? Did Flavor lose time seeing the AlphaTauri go around ahead of him?
End of Sector 2, Dave is up a tenth of a second. That won't be enough to climb over Caliboy, his teammate. Will that be enough to keep Flavor at bay?
Flavor is up by a third of a second right now. This is getting very
Dave
close
crosses
to
the line,
the line.
7th fastest, below the 118s.
So Flavor has to beat Caliboy. That's going to be a gap of half a second. I don't know if Flavor has that in him. He's been in this position several times, though, this season, and has pulled it out.
He's good.
Yes, he's
good.
in, and Coley's out. Flavor has been absolutely clutch when it comes to Q2. He had a little bit of help from his teammate Schumacher, but that goes to show you how the Ferrari team has worked very well with each other. They always put their focus on whichever driver needs the most help in qualifying, and it has really, that coupled with Flavor's resilience has really let him bring in a lot of Q3 showings here. In the end, BTEC 11 barely makes it in. Look at that, only 25 thousandths between Jalebin and Boy. And in the end, it is Boy, Veli, E-Diggity, and Imperium and Pingu that do not advance to the next round qualifying. I think for Imperium and Pingu, this may have been tactical. You look at their fastest laps, 4.5 seconds off the best, while everyone else was within a second and a half. I think Imperium and Pingu intentionally want to start near the back of the grid so they have more sets of tires in this race. All right, so 10 drivers. In the end, well, it was looking really close at one point. In the end, both McLarens, both Red Bulls, and both Ferraris are in, and both Haas's are in also. As far as I know, the Haas's drivers do not talk to each other. Neither do the Red Bulls. So I think with that in mind, I think the McLarens and the Ferraris are honestly in the best bet to go for pole position fighting. One other thing to consider, though, this is a long straightaway. Draft comes into play very quickly here. On the very first lap, on the run down turn 1, draft comes into play. Do you want to intentionally not start on the front row and maybe start 3rd or 4th and try to get a draft to make an overtake going into turn 1? Do you want to consider doing that? Or is that point for pole that going to be that important for you?
The fact that at the very beginning of the race you are not carrying the speed you have at the exit of 17, and I'm a little bit skeptical about this one because I don't think these cars can reach their top speed entering turn 1 from starting from a standing position on the grid.
No, but they do hit high enough speed that the draft does come into play. We've seen in 2018, 2019, 2020, all coming off the line, the speeds are fast enough down the front straight that the driver in the back row, in the second row, honestly has a shot of going for the pole. Now, not always do they take that, but they always have a shot at it. I did not watch the 2022 Formula 1 race at Mexico, so I don't know how that will come into play with this set of regs. I do know that these cars, obviously, they're heavier, especially considering they're going to be at their fullest weight overall because they're going to be fully fuel loaded. The tires are going to be cold also, so they will be a little bit slower off the line compared to the last regulation of cars. But there's not nearly as much aerodynamic drag on these cars. A lot more of the aerodynamics are generated in the underbody rather than over the top of the car. So that's why I ask, like, hey, maybe? Yes, the car is heavier, so the initial launch off the line is going to be slower, but with less aerodynamic drag, you'll be getting up to a higher speed even faster going into 1. I don't know how much different it's going to be. For all we know, the person in 3rd or 4th may not be fast enough. Because that's the other thing to consider. What if your wings are all set askew? If you have a wing setup that is really, really high, I'm talking like 25, 30s, and the guys in the front rows are running like 11 and 15 or something, yeah, you may have the draft, but that may not be enough to overcome the sheer speed that the guys ahead have. It's something to consider, and that's kind of the wild card here at Mexico. You don't really see at any other circuit on the schedule. Yes, Monza also has long straightaways, but Monza is a relatively narrower track. Dragonborn says the first time of the session, 117.523. Monza's relatively narrower side to side, and the run from the initial start down to the T1 chicane is a lot slower. Same thing with
almost a 116 for Rubago.
And here it comes.
Schumacher
Flavor.
Follow up. 300ths of a second back.
Meerkat across the line, 117.964. So the number 2
Snake.
McLaren seems to be struggling a bit.
Snake at 117.732.
Gilebin has invalidated his lap, so Dave is the next driver to set a time here. Coming down the front straightaway. Dave, 118.486. That is by far the worst time we've seen thus far. Here comes Flavor, and Zola's ahead of him, so Zola crosses the line with a 117.956. So the Red Bulls are even with each other roughly on time. Flavor sets a 118.578. So Dave and Flavor don't have quite the speed that they want. Here's Gilebin. Gilebin invalidated his first lap, so this is his second run. I guess they put enough fuel in that Haas that he's able to go for a second run, and he invalidated it early enough that he was able to back off and keep the tires from wearing out on him. Be careful through the S's, Haas. .393 at the end of Sector 2. Relatively interesting, though. Normally, there ends up being one or two drivers who end up having to wait until the very end of Q3 to set a time, but we're on pace to see all 10 of our drivers set their times in the first 5.5 minutes of the session.
Doesn't look too good for BTEC Jalen, the 118.525. Half a tenth faster than Flavor.
And now the track goes silent as Gilebin is on a cooldown lap and everyone else has come into the pits.
Oh, Dragonborn's going out again.
Mind you, Dragonborn was the first man to get out on track in the session, and that gives you a significant advantage. That means that, you know, you can go out there, you can set your first lap quick, and if everything's going well, you can go out and be the first man out to set your second lap, and if you're fast enough, again, you could honestly get a serious shot at third lap. Lap time here, if you think of a lap as being roughly 120, in lap, out lap, in lap, that's 4 minutes for 3 laps, basically, or 4 minutes for one proper flying lap. This is a 12-minute session, and then you also consider that you don't need to do a cooldown lap for your final run because of the way the you get a post clock. The game gives you the ability to finish your lap once the clock goes out. Dragonborn is setting himself up to go for 3 proper flyer laps here.
McLaren is going out again.
Mind you, Dragonborn only did a single lap in Q1 and a single lap in Q2. So he definitely has the tires to make this work.
Also watching again the onboard on Jalen cooldown lap. I do expect the inside curb of turn 8 to be the deadliest foe of our competitors today.
I can definitely agree with you there. Well, so I'm going to go ahead and throw one more thing out there. I've seen this happen almost every race we've ever been here. I see this happen either in qualifying or in the race. And I assume the same thing is going to happen. The final corner can also be very, very treacherous, especially if you're not running traction control. It's very easy to put the power down, spin yourself around. Every single race that we've had here since I started broadcasting, whether it's X2 or X3, there's always someone who spins and either spins into pit lane when they didn't want to, and they get a time penalty and get set off the strategy that they wanted, and or they damage and crash their car. I believe it was in the full season race here, in the last game, not the full season race, the full season when they ran at Mexico in the last game, there was an accident in Q3 that happened from someone having a cooldown lap, spinning into the pits, and invalidated like 7 different people's laps. So coming into pit lane entry may not be as destructive. It's not going to automatically kill your car, but it's something else to keep an eye on. So yeah, I agree with you. I think turn 8 will probably be the most destructive we see today, but I think the final corner is going to be just as decisive in this
Dragonborn
race.
outside wall 17. And he bails out. And also watching Dragonborn going around, I catched a glimpse of it, but I believe we're also keep an eye on turn 8, especially the inside rumble strip, and also turn 11, as I saw Dragonborn catching a four-wheel slide. Not too much, but at these speeds, really easy to lose the car. So apparently Mantic Meerkat is up by almost a tenth at the end of Sector 1. As he gained on Sector 2, no, he lost. Only a quarter of a hundred.
The only reason
quarter of a tenth,
he
sorry.
gained in Sector 1 was because Herbago went out on track and they timed it so that way Herbago could give Mantic Meerkat a tow down the main straight. That's the only reason Meerkat had gained time. And the fact that he lost it all in Sector 2 is pretty damning, I'd say. Dr. Phil and Jalebin are on outlaps right now. The Alfa Romeo of Dave has set a 118.486 as his best lap. He's trying to better that now with less than 2.5 minutes left on the session.
Herbago is out again, and I really want to see if he has already improved at the end of Sector 1.
Oh, Dave, big slide R3.
Oh, and that's a net
That will
loss for
compromise that
Herbago.
lap.
Oh, and
Oh, and he's
Herbago
around!
spins. Exit of 4.
And mind you, who is Rain right behind the Haas of Dragonborn. No, not Dragonborn, Jalebin. I wonder if he saw Jalebin and was kind of compromised by the Haas ahead, kind of breaking his focus. Mind you, Jalebin was on an outlap, so Jalebin wasn't quite incentivized to go full beans to the wall. I'm curious if Herbago is going to go for another flyer. I think he is because he's slowed way down. He's recharged his ERS to about 85% here, 86%. So yeah, I think Herbago is going to try and go one more flyer on this set of tires. Mind you, 1 minute and 15 seconds left. If you're not on track right now, you're not going to get another lap going. Schumacher is out on circuit now, trying to rush to the line to get a time in. Schumacher has been clutch in qualifying this season.
And everybody's on track as we are speaking. The last minute of Q3. Let's see what those boys can give us.
Can Meerkat and Flavor make it to the line in time? It looks like they will. Although it will be really close for Meerkat. I'm curious to see if Herbago will gain anything at the end of Sector 1. There'll be less fuel in the car. No, he's down.
Lost 3/4 of a tenth. But again, it's really hard to gain anything in Sector 1 here, especially if you've done a really good Sector 1, as
Dr.
there's only
Phil's gone
3
up
turns.
to 4th. Here comes Meerkat. About to start his flyer. And Jalebin is behind him. Jalebin is up by 6 cents, so Jalebin's about to break into the
And
17s
Herbago
here.
invalidates.
Ah, well, Herbago better
Slightly-
hope that the time he set is good enough to keep Schumacher behind him.
Schumacher improved at the end of Sector 1. 700.
Time's up. Over. Plow. Here comes Dave. Dave only improves by 200th. That doesn't really change his focus whatsoever. Zola out of the final quarter. What does he do? He moves up to 6th. What about Snake, who's the 3rd fastest? Snake aborts.
He was 10 seconds down. Schumacher improved by almost a tenth. If he can keep his composure, it will be good enough for Paul. Probably a below 117. Really expecting it. Come on.
He does! 16.976! Here comes his teammate Flavor across the line. He jumps up to 9th with an 18.338.
Oh.
Meerkat is up as well by almost 2 tenths out of Sector 2.
If he can find another tenth of a second, it might be good enough. And clear Jay LeBen for 7th spot. Does he have the speed?
No.
A little bit short.
And Jalebin's invalidated this lap, so qualifying is over. And Schumacher with another point from pole position. That was one of the big things, the two biggest things I would argue that has let Schumacher open up this massive gap in the points. He has shown up and finished every race this season, for one. And then number two, he keeps showing up in qualifying. He's only won about 3 races this season, but he keeps showing up in qualifying and keeps stealing bonus points from pole position all the bloody time. I think those are the biggest things that have really helped him in his title fight. With this in mind, 134 points left on the table, and Schumacher now has 100 points over Herbago, who has been his closest on-track rival. I think we're almost guaranteed to see Herbago get locked out of the title fight by the end of today's race. All right, so there's your results. This will be an interesting event. I'm honestly very, very curious to see what the tire strategy is going to be for this race more than anything else. Now, granted, tire strategy can become completely invalidated. You have a bunch of yellow flags early in the event, and whatever strategy you may be on, you might have to completely throw away and jump onto another strat. But considering that the meta throughout the entire game has been go medium to hards, and now I've heard a lot of people saying, hey, that's not going to work at Mexico. I'm really curious to see what it's going to be. Before we get into that, though, real quickly, let's go ahead and look at the championship fights as they are right now. Real quickly bringing up the points for X3. Here we are. So when it comes to the Manufacturers Championship, this is the closer one to keep an eye on. 10th is AlphaTauri with only 68 points. There's not very many points left in the season. I don't know if AlphaTauri is going to make it into the 100-point range. 9th is Williams with 88 points. There's still 12 out. There's a little bit of time for them to get into triple digits. 8th is Aston Martin. They finally have broke the 100-point barrier. They have 103 points. 7th is the Alpine team with 118 points. 6th is Mercedes with 127. 5th is Alfa Romeo with 143. 4th is Haas with 170. And then we come to our Manufacturer Championship contenders. Red Bull kind of dropped the ball last week with one of their drivers getting disqualified and the other one just never really factored into the race. They are 3rd with 265 points. 2nd is McLaren. They've rebounded significantly. They have 378 points. Ferrari still leads in the manufacturers by just 20 points with 398. So if we have another race today like what we saw last week where the McLarens bring home a pair of podium finishes and one Ferrari only comes home 10th but the other one ends up finishing 2nd, we could see McLaren steal the manufacturers points lead back. I don't know how strong Meerkat's going to actually be in race pace though. Drivers Championship. 19th is BTEC 11 with 5 points. 18th is Imperium SG with 12. 17th is Golden with 25 points. 16th is Ferrari with 31. 15th is Higgs Boston with 32. 14th is Mercedes with 42 points. 13th is Dr. Phil with 43 points. Agony is 12th with 44 points. 11th is XRL Snake with 48 points. 10th is Plastic Love with 60. Then we start getting into the interesting little fight that's developed for 5th because 9th is AK Herbie with 66 points. 8th is XRL Dave with 68 points. 7th is Collie Boy with 75 points. 6th is Dragonborn. He also has 75 points. 5th is XRL Flavor with 92. Flavor has been pretty much the same ballpark as his teammate Schumacher. He's finished almost every race. There's been a few races he's not finished, but he's finished almost every race this season. And that's why he's been 5th. But in the last few weeks, Collie Boy in the Alfa Romeo and Dragonborn in the Haas have absolutely surged. There is a legit fight for 5th in the Drivers' Championship. 4th is Mantic Meerkat with 171 points. He is actually in position that he could end up overtaking Herbago if Herbago has another several DNS, because Herbago was 3rd with 207 points. He finally, for the first time in what had been 6 races, finally brought home a good chunk of points at Coda with that 3rd place finish. I think he may finally have some of his mojo back. 2nd is Extra Zola with 214 points. Outside chance for the championship fight, but it's still there. It's still alive. He still has a shot. And Schumacher leads with 306 points at this this stage in the season. So yeah, the big things to watch will be Schumacher trying to lock up the Drivers' Championship, and then what can Flavor do against Dragonborn and Collie Boy going to the end of the season now. All right, so we should be getting underway in about 2 minutes here. And I talked about this earlier, about the possibility of a third or fourth place driver getting a great tow down the front straightaway. I look at this. Right now it says that Schumacher is starting on hards, Herbago starting on mediums, Snake starting on mediums, Dr. Phil starting on mediums. If Herbago does not have a great run, and we know Schumacher's not going to have a great run off the line because he's on hards. But with this all in mind, if we see a scenario where the top two do not get a good run off the start, Snake and Dr. Phil may legitimately have a shot to try and make it 3 wide for the lead going into turn 1. I don't know if they'll be able to pull it off, but that is a possibility here simply because of the gigantic run you get from the grid start all the way down into turn 1 here. You can't really make a whole lot of
soft as well. I am really concerned about this choice, as I'm seeing some kind of desperation play from the Red Bull driver and trying to hang on is stay relevant in the title fight for the Drivers' Championship.
Yeah, but again, a lot of drivers have been saying that medium hards are not the way to go. You want to go soft, soft, medium, or soft, medium, soft. So, I don't know. I'll say this. I like Zola's idea, throw on the softs. And he's not the only one. Higgs Boston, who's starting in the back, he's also going to be starting on softs. I like the idea. But at the same time, if you get an absolutely fantastic start and the drivers ahead you don't, because you look with Zola, 2 of the drivers ahead are on hards, 3 of them are on mediums. There is a possibility that Zola ends up in a scenario where he's faster than everyone ahead and has to let off and ends up losing even more time than when he actually gains. I like the idea. I really like the strategy. I've always been a fan of get off strategy because if you're on the same strategy as everyone else, you're never going to be able to overtake them. But there are risks involved. Once you leave the front 2 rows, once you start 5th on going on down, things get a lot more difficult here on the run down to turn 1. All right, 1 warm-up lap.
Alright, and as usual, I will stay at the back of the grid and watching if anything happens.
I wonder if
During
Zola
first
listened
lap.
to you. Zola went ahead and threw on hards at the end, so maybe Zola's listening to you, PZ.
I mean, I don't really know if I can quote him as he is the original sayer of this, but desperation plays are really not always a good idea. And I'm quoting Emperor Lemon from his Art of the Choke video. And yeah, as I was seeing Zola on soft, I was like, the man will try to be fast at the beginning of the race and try to hang on a title chance, but
Actually,
yes,
you mentioned
strategy-wise, it can work, but emotionally, I'm really tempted to say the emotions would have got the better of him.
So I will go ahead and say this. I think the difference between getting off strategy and going for something crazy and doing a desperation play is 100% in your mind. If you go into the mindset of, oh man, I'm not going to win, I might as well do something crazy, you're not in the right headspace. But if you go into the mindset of, I want to get off strategy because I know I have the ability to do something unique and pull it off, I think the headspace is going to be the key part of it here. And now granted, Zola in the end has gone to hard tires, so it's not anything too out of the ordinary. But I think that going ahead and jumping onto a alternate strategy can work, but you need to be in the right headspace for it. Alright, so I will be focusing on the front 2 rows as we prepare to get underway. 17 drivers lined up here at Mexico. How is this going to play out? We don't know what tire strategy is going to win. We don't know yellow flags or a lot of stuff. What we do know is that we're about to get underway very shortly here. As we see the lights. 4 lights, 5 lights. As lights out, away we go, and no one got a good start except for Snake. Here comes Snake on the outside. Here comes Dragonborn. Dragonborn's got a gigantic run. The Red Bulls has to back out. Here comes Dragonborn to the inside. There's 3-1 as they're coming down to the line. Dragonborn, Herbago, Schumacher, all on top of each other. They're 3 wide all over the place. Schumacher's gonna hate the position, and Dragonborn goes off track, and he's going to fall out of the point pay position. There's still 3 and 4 wide farther back down the field, but at the front, it is Schumacher, Herbago, Valenzuela. Herbago goes to the outside of Schumacher, and now they go into 4, 5, and 6, and Schumacher gets hit by the McLaren, and the McLaren smacks into the side of the Ferrari. Both of them go around. Both of them are into it. Herbago has hit 3 cars in the span of 2 corners.
Damn, I was not expecting to watch a NASCAR race today, but damn, it did work out fine. There's no damage on either of those 3 cars who are leading the race now. I also want to point out the great start of Higgs Boson from dead last, 17th, and he is now 12th. And he was squeezed into the grass. He could have passed a couple other cars entering 1, and now he's stuck within traffic in the stadium section.
Speaking of stadium section, my goodness, this is a mess as I'm watching Higgs Boson as he sees Flavor and Dave going at it there. So Schumacher turned a really, really bad start on the hards. He not only had a bad start, but he started late.
Oh.
And he's turned that into a lead. But look at this fight for a second. Dr. Phil is there behind Herbago, really pressuring the McLaren.
Oh, there's a spin. There's a spin in
That's
turn 1.
Higgs. Oh, that's Higgs. And Veli has come into the pits, and Dragonborn, who was knocked off circuit there, trying to make it 3 wide into 1, he is still back there in 16th. But man, the top 3 have all closed right on top of each other. Herbago is right there behind Schumacher again, and Dr. Phil is running right behind Herbago. These cars are getting the maximum aero wake from the cars ahead. I'm really concerned if Herbago and Dr. Phil are going to have a setup that will enable them to keep their cars on the ground properly through the S's. They do it this time for now, but I don't know how long it's going to work because Schumacher has an advantage in tire life compared to Herbago and Dr. Phil.
The longer he will keep the McLaren and the Red Bull behind him, the better it will be for strategy as well.
Another thing to consider,
As
we're starting
Herbago
lap
is
3
now
now.
under attack from Dr. Phil.
And Zola in 4th has just set the fastest lap, actually. And now we're going to see DRS come into play. Herbago does not have any DRS. Schumacher has 70% right now. But Herbago will have DRS down this second straightaway, but no ERS in his favor. Oh, wow, Dr. Phil, big, risky move, and they slam again. Seems like Dr. Phil and Herbago think this is a NASCAR race, like you said. So the number 2 Red Bull driver and the number 1 McLaren driver kind of compromising each other a bunch here, and it's keeping them from really doing anything to the lead Ferrari.
Oh, McLaren goes wide instead of 6. Still defending from Dr. Phil.
Herbago's Herbago's not properly focused. He didn't nail the first quarter going into the S's. The tire, the left rear tire was into the grass, actually. I'm honestly shocked he was able to keep that thing together. Herbago, come on, you gotta keep your head in it. It's still early in the race. You're still in second. Don't let Dr. Phil get in your head. Herbago definitely has the ability to do it. Here's something else considered though. Dr. Phil is running very, very light on fuel right now. He is right now in the mode where he needs to consider fuel saving because he is so light on fuel. He's right behind the McLaren. He's gonna have DRS and draft. He's out of ERS though. And Herbago still has enough ERS. He's going to use that to keep Dr. Phil behind him.
Oh, Snake on the inside of Zola. Fails out entering 1.
Oh, and Phil does the exact same thing around the outside through 1 and 2, and he just slams his car into Herbago. I don't know what in the world Dr. Phil is trying to do. He's already tried that move. You can't just bully another car out of the way. He's going for it again. And now this time Herbago slams into Dr. Phil.
And Snake goes by Zola as he was watching his teammate fight the McLaren for second place. And now the Mercedes has gone through.
Dr. Phil still behind Herbago. These two keep slamming each other, and they're doing it with their front tires and their front wings. If they keep doing it, they will eventually end up with damage on their front wings. They need to stop just barreling each other going into turns 2 and 3 and going into turns 4 and 5.
I'd also really be careful about XR Snake, because he is barreling towards them really fast now that he is past
Another thing
Zola.
to consider, Schumacher is now out of DRS range, so Herbago does not have DRS that he can use as a defense anymore. As they go down the main straightaway once again, Gelebend now sets the fastest lap back there in 8th. Here comes Dr. Phil. He's within a third of a second, within a quarter. Does he make the move? He's not the last 2 laps around the outside, and here he comes again, and he turns him right in front of the field. And there goes Snake by. Oh, and the McLaren's hit again. And now the McLaren of Herbago is sideways. And he falls all the way back to 8th. Might even fall farther behind than that. Flavor and Dave both go off. Flavor and Dave have just had an accident behind. That will keep Herbago in the points. Flavor now has wing damage after going off track with Dave. So Herbago will stay 8th. But it is now Snake who is in 2nd. That accident was 3 laps in the making. Herbago and Dr. Phil were not giving each other any quarter. They're just kind of being ridiculous going into the braking zones at the end of the straights. And that's your end result.
And the biggest benefactor in all this is actually Snake, as you mentioned, now in 2nd place. He was just watching it unravel, staying clear out of it, and now trying to chase the man in front.
Oh, Eggity gets by Higgs Boston as Boston has a gigantic issue there in the S's. Now Eggity continues it. He's going to make a move in the DRS zone against Zackel. Could not make it stick. But Eggity on the hard tires is pressing hard against drivers on faster rubber right now. Herbago in the pits. Flavor actually stays out with that damaged front wing, but Herbago is going to pit. They might have damaged the tires, and they did damage the front wing. They have to replace the front wing, so Herbago is going to fall out of the points-paying positions all the way down to 14th by the looks. It might even be worse than that. It might even be closer to 15th or 16th.
And there's a set of hards on this McLaren now, trying to play the long game.
All right, so Meerkat runs in 5th behind a pair of Red Bulls. And Dave fighting with Flavor. Dave on the outside of Flavor. Mind you, Flavor has a damaged front wing. Dave does not. Dave is finally going to overtake Flavor.
Whoa, easy on the power, Dave. You almost lost it.
And mind you, Flavor is also is in fuel saving mode right now. So this has not been a good start for Flavor. Flavor is at risk of dropping out of the points paying positions himself because he has a damaged front wing and he has to deal with fuel saving mode right now. He's not the only one. Gelebend in 7th also is in fuel saving mode. And Dr. Phil, who is in 4th, is also still in fuel saving mode. He's got a run on Zola. He's going to try and overtake his teammate down the front straightaway this time.
Oh, it's going to be tough as he has very little ERS. But he is looking inside. Is he backing off?
Yeah, Zola backs off to let Dr. Phil by, but in the process, it brought Mantic Meerkat right into the fray. Meerkat's going to have a run on them now.
As
and mind you, Meerkat's at 100% ERS.
As you were mentioning before, there is no communications between the Red Bull drivers. I saw Phil back off, and then Zola back off even harder. So, really, this really emphasizes what you were saying about the Red Bull drivers. They're not communicating, therefore neither of them knows what the other want to do. Oh, and 3 seconds penalty for XL Flavor. That is not going to help him.
I'm gonna real quickly just deviate from the action on track. I don't know what in the world the FIA was thinking putting a DRS straight out of the S's going down to Stadium. I understand it's probably to just kind of help the field stay bunched up together, but like, of all the DRS straights in Formula 1, that is up there with the DRS straight at Monaco. of just being completely useless. The only time I've ever seen anyone pull a move off through there was V8 Irons in the last game, and he got penalized for doing it. It is honestly like one of the dumbest DRS straights I've ever seen.
I mean, it's dumb, unlike Monaco, which is use-based. And rightfully so dumb as well.
Alright, so at this point, Snake has actually closed in a bit on Schumacher, but I wonder if Schumacher is just, kind of watching himself, just managing his tires, managing his fuel to try and go to the end. He doesn't have to worry about having a Red Bull or McLaren pushing him right now. And with Zola running fourth while Schumacher is leading, Schumacher is in position to lock up the championship drivers-wise as they stand right now. If they finish where everyone is.
And also gaining a big advantage in the Constructors' Championship as, well, Red Bull is kind of out of contention. And McLaren also only has Mantic Meerkat in the top 10 as of right now.
Yeah. Look at this fight from 10th on back, though. Imperium is 10th, but he's relatively slow in the S's right now. He's got Zackle behind him, Eggity behind him, Dragonborn has caught them as well. So it's a four-way fight for a last points paying position. Dragonborn, again, he qualified near the front of the grid, went 3 wide going into turn 1, spun himself out to the rear of the field. He's trying to make up for his own stupidity now. Oh, wow, that Alpine of Zackle totally sideways, and Zola has just gotten by Dr. Phil. Going down the main straightaway, Zola just overtook Dr. Phil with some DRS-ERS combo.
Talking about the battle for 10th onward, also have to mention that Zackle and Edigity do have 3-second penalty, as well as Flavor. So, I mean, at least now we're looking at a fight for the 9th place.
Dragonborn has burned almost all of his ERS up trying to catch the drivers ahead. He's there with Zackle, but he can't get by
back
him.
Into 5. Fails out mistakes.
But this goes to what you were saying earlier, 4, 5, and 6 really aren't that good of corners, especially not for overtaking. They're all just too tight and too abrupt and janky. Wow, Zackle really bad through the S's there, misses one of them. Dragonborn has a run, but you can't go trying to make overtakes through here. He's going for it anyway. Here comes Dragonborn. He's going to out-drag
Massive
Zackle.
Speed difference.
Oh,
As
here
the
comes
AlphaTauri.
Diggity.
Oh, that was a close one.
Well, Dragonborn is now 11th, and now can set his sights on Imperium, who is 10th.
Unfortunately, he is still outside of the DRS range, but I think Zackle is... Oh no, Zackle is within DRS range, and he is catching up a little bit.
But Zackle is almost as bad in his ERS scenario as Dragonborn is. Seems like a lot of drivers just have not been able to manage their ERS very well at all.
I mean...
I look through the grid. Schumacher is at 3/4 use. Snake is at 43%. Wow, Snake very nearly lost it in the S's that time around. Zola is at 48% use. Dr. Phil, 11%, and Phil still is in fuel-saving mode. Meerkat is at 62. Collie he's at a third, and then you get behind him. 11 is at 43, but then, and Dave's in 8th, but you get from 9th on back, and everyone from 9th on back has completely burned all of his stuff.
11.
And that'll be big for Flavor. That moves him back into 8th right now. And that will put Dave into the clutches of Imperium and Dragonborn. Dragonborn's going to use it. He has no fear whatsoever. He goes around the outside of Imperium. So that DRS straightaway that I said was useless, Dragonborn must have heard and been pissed off because he's just made 2 overtakes with that DRS straight alone. He's now in the points paying position, saying his sights on Flavor, and Pingu has crashed out in the S's. Pingu has crashed out in the S's, and that is a yellow flag. That is a virtual safety car for Pingu's accident.
And also pointing out one fact that yes, it is really hard to keep your ERS level high in this track because it is a really fast track with not a lot of hard braking zone as well. So yeah, spending your ERS here is easier than gaining some.
Also, what did you say earlier before the race started? Turn 8 was going to be the big wild card. Guess where Pingu crashed out? Turn 8.
Called it. Called it. This... It is way too abrupt of a rumble strip, to be honest. It does give me...
And Meerkat just ran to the back of Dr. Phil under safety car. Well, under virtual safety car. In the stadium section.
Doesn't seem to have any damages on the front wing. So at least that's that.
And there we are. Green flag back on track. DRS re-enabled. BTEC Jelebin is pitting. Don't know what's going on there. Didn't really time it very well in the Haas camp because they came into pits just as the yellow flag went away, so they're not really going to get any advantage from it.
And that's a set it hard for BTEC Jelebin. So that was probably an integral part of their racing strategy. But yeah, really a shame it had to happen at this point in the race. Maybe they were expecting another lap of full course caution. The VSC as VTEC is under attack from Rubago as he does the big old switcheroo at the end of the main straight entering turn 1. That did work at the end.
Oh, Dr. Phil's gone off in the S's and got a time penalty, and now Mantic Meerkat is pressuring him. So both of the Red Bulls who are running 3rd and 4th now have time penalties. And mind you, apparently that virtual safety car was not enough. Dr. Phil is still in I need to save fuel mode right now. Also, Dave is right there behind Dragonborn. Dragonborn is there behind Flavor. Flavor with that still damaged front wing is holding Dragonborn up. Here comes Dave. Dave has a run on Dragonborn. They're all going to be on top of each other as they go into the corner.
Oh, and he keeps it on the inside for 10-13. He has the advantage now.
And now this is bringing Imperium back into the fray. So Flavor there in 7th with that damaged front wing is really upsetting everything from 7th on back right now because you can get to him, but no one seems to be able to get by him. And mind you, Flavor is still in I need to save fuel mode. Dragonborn is not, so Dragonborn should have the advantage, but Dave is not giving Dragonborn any quarter, and now here comes Imperium on Dave again, and this has brought Zackle and E-Diggity back into the fray again. So 7 through 12, all on top of each other, and you look in 13th, that's Herbago, who is 2nd fastest in qualifying. He is flying back up to the grid. He's about to come into this fray once again. And farther up the grid, the fight for 4th continues. Mantic Meerkat continues to hang out behind Dr. Phil. Phil is losing touch with Zola, and Meerkat is kind of being held up. Meerkat knows that he's faster than at least this number 2 Red Bull, but he cannot seem to get by him at all. But Phil is out of DRS. He is not in DRS range. He's out of ERS. Meerkat should have a great advantage down the straight here, but I think Meerkat is running a relatively high wing setup, so he's not really closing as much as he wants, even with DRS and ERS combined. Dragonborn had a really bad run coming onto the front straightaway. DRS enabled, and while Dragonborn's going to be closing on Flavor, Dave was going to be right behind him. No movement. Not this time, at least.
Oh, that was a bad exit of turn 4 for Flavor. Can Dragonborn capitalize on that? He is trying.
Waited too long. He was trying so hard to get a good draft. Oh, and this goes horrible. Flavor with that damage front wing has to be so careful through 4, 5, and 6. And now Dragonborn ran to the back of him. Dave ran to the back of Dragonborn, and Imperium ran to the back of both of them.
And both the Alpine and the Alfa Romeo do have broken front wings now. But really not helping their case. As Flavor is still continuing to back up the field from 7 downwards.
Yeah, Flavor has got to pit sooner rather than later. The thing is, this is working very well for the Ferraris overall when it comes to their fight, because Herbago is out of the points paying position still and stuck in this gigantic mess of traffic because Flavor's holding them up. Right now, Flavor holding up the #1 McLaren. Oh, Zackel gets a time penalty. And there we are. We're seeing there's the Alfa Romeo and the Williams, I believe, actually pitting to repair their damage.
Yep. They both know they have front wing damage and they do not want to run with them. As Dave gets a fresh set of mediums and Hyperion as well.
Herbago is now there behind Dragonborn. Dragonborn still behind Flavor, has not been able to make the overtake. I wonder if maybe Dragonborn has burned up his tires recovering from that spin earlier, and that's the main reason why he doesn't feel confident pressuring Flavor. Herbago has now caught them though, so Herbago up against Dragonborn here. And both of them still unable to get by Flavor with the damaged front wing.
Not the best of lines for Dragonborn to go around the dollar store Maggots and Beckett. But he still has his nose in the gearbox of Flavor in front of him. And now, worst scenario of all, Herbago is knocking on the door behind him.
All right, here comes Herbago on Dragonborn. Dragonborn cuts down a bit on Herbago, then gives Herbago the inside line. It's going to be a DRS-ERS fight. Herbago is already using up all his ERS. He's at 9% going down the straight. He falls in line behind the Haas. He wants to try and overtake the Haas into the braking zone. Can't make it happen this time by, though.
Yet again, Flavor really slow in these first couple of turns. But yet again, advantage Dragonborn for having almost half of his reserve ERS. That is disposal.
And now it's bringing BTEC Kilebin back into the fray as well. Remember, BTEC Kilebin, he's 10th, so this is still going to be a massive multi-way fight for points. Kilebin closing in on Herbago. Herbago now going to be sandwiched between Haas's, and they're all still being backed up by Flavor. Flavor at this stage is more than a full pit stop behind Collie Boy. And if this race continues at the rate it is going, these drivers will honestly be at risk of going a lap down. But Dragonborn has the inside to make a little bit of contact into braking. And Herbago is going to go by, I think, this time.
Unless Dragonborn has something to say about it.
He's going to have DRS. Oh, Herbago's going to blitz Flavor here without issue, though.
Does he have enough DRS?
Well, it doesn't matter. Flavor is in fuel-saving mode, and he's just as badly out of ERS. And Imperium's crashed down the S's. Imperium has crashed down the S's. Right in front of our leaders. That might be a yellow flag. That is. That's a full-course yellow flag.
Safety car is out, and Dragonborn was on his way to overtake Herbago, and then the safety car was called, and now he has to settle behind the McLaren.
So we are now down to 15 cars. Zackel has just got a drive-through penalty for speeding under the safety car.
Leader's going to pit lane.
Snake coming in as well. What about third place Zola? No, Zola stays out. No, Zola does come in. It's Dr. Phil who stays out. Dr. Phil stays out because I'm guessing they didn't want to double stack the Red Bulls. But everyone else is coming in, I think. This will be great news for Flavor because he'll be able to close that 28-second gap right up and maybe get a new front wing. The thing is, Flavor is going to fall behind Herbago, Dragonborn, Kilebin, Diggity because those teams won't have to repair wings. Flavor does. I think Flavor's still going to drop out of the points-paying position because they have to repair the front wing on that machine. Dragonborn has hit Herbago in the pits! Dragonborn has hit Herbago in the pit lane entry, and now Dragonborn has a 5-second time penalty to deal with. And Dragonborn put on soft tires. And they double stacked the Haas's, so Dragonborn will actually end out ahead of Herbago on track. So Dragonborn on soft tires is now ahead of Herbago on the circuit, but Dragonborn's gonna have to pit again because those softs aren't gonna make it to the end. We're only about halfway through this race. Herbago is in 10th, Flavor is now 11th, Zackle is now 12th, but Zackle has a drive-through penalty to serve. Higgs Boston is going to be 13th, BTEC 11 because they double-stacked the Haas, he's fallen all the way to 14th, and Dave is now going to be 15th. But at the moment, Dr. Phil now leads, and Schumacher is right behind him. But Schumacher is on fresh mediums, Dr. Phil is on worn mediums.
Oh, and Dr. Phil's going to pit lane.
Yep,
Lead
this
goes
is going
back to Schumacher.
Oh, this is going to drop Dr. Phil way down the grid, potentially down to 8th or 9th position here. And they take off a set of mediums to put another set of mediums on. So Dr. Phil's going to have to jump onto a set of softs later in this event because you need to run 2 different tire compounds. Theoretically, if you went this far on the mediums, you could throw on a set of hards to the end, which is the situation Snake is in. I think Snake has the best strategy call right now, assuming the hards aren't completely useless like I heard leading up to this event. Schumacher showed that the hards were pretty good, but beyond him, it was kind of hard to tell.
I mean, and also the fact that he was leading the race and he was in clean air all the way until lap 18.
Well,
So
this
do
is going to
factor that in.
put-
Do factor the aero wake in with the hard compound.
Well, this now puts Dragonborn up into 7th. Herbago is now going to... Oh, Dragonborn still has the wing damage. When Dragonborn hit Herbago in the pits, it compromises front wing. Dragonborn has a damaged front wing. And Herbago is 8th now. Flavor is now 9th. 10th is Ediggity. 11th is Veli. Higgs Boston is 12th. 11th, 13th, Dave 14th. Zackle has pitted again. And he is now 15th. This is going to be a long yellow flag because the field was so badly spread out, especially because of the way that Flavor had backed up the middle to back of the field. Everyone's been really spread out. So this is going to be a long yellow flag. I think for everyone who was kind of iffy on fuel, this will put them in the positive when it comes to fuel now. You were not there for that race, but at Singapore, if not for a late race yellow, there was a high likelihood that the top 5 drivers were all going to run out of fuel in the last lap and a half there, and we were looking like that could have become a possibility here today. Now, that has not happened, but now this yellow flag's come out, that's not going to happen, but still, we have seen some instances where fuel has gotten very, very close. So we've had about a lap of virtual safety car early in the event, and now under our first full course safety car at the halfway stage. So anyone who started on the medium tires has a significant advantage. And then the people who started on the hards, I'm looking at Schumacher. It's going to be interesting for Schumacher because Schumacher now has to make this set of medium tires last another 16 laps. I'm not saying he can't do it. I think he can. But Snake behind him in second is going to have a significant tire advantage now to the end of this race. And you look at Zola. Zola's in third place. Zola is in position to keep his championship hopes alive. And the field, we're going to go green. And the game does not care if Dave or Zackle have caught the rear of the grid or not. We are going to go green this lap. So, Schumacher controls the field on the restart. Snake will be second. How does Snake respond to Schumacher? Out of the final corner.
Oh,
Power down. Oh.
And he gets
Botched
the
it.
field. He caught the field behind him sleeping. The man is gone.
Yeah, Snake is full on his ERS, but even with a massive ERS dump down the front straightaway, he has lost a chunk of time to Schumacher and has Zola now right behind him fighting. Veli gets by E-Diggity for 10th, farther back in the grid. The real thing to watch is going to be Herbago and Dragonborn. Dragonborn is on softs, but Dragonborn has a damaged front wing. Herbago has been one of the best. And a big, gigantic accident! Wow!
Kelly Boy and Phil involved. Or was it?
No, that was Colin Boy and Phil. And that Alfa Romeo got about 10 feet in the air off of the back of the Red Bull. We stay green somehow. But my goodness, that was a shunt. Colin Boy's car is just laying in the middle of the straightaway, but we stay green.
There's still some issues to iron out with this game, honestly. And this one might be one of the worst.
Oh, don't worry. Next game will be even worse.
I know that. Fastest lap by
fastest
Schumacher.
lap.
Ooh, will we see someone knock at the below 120 lap today?
I think we might see a 119 by the end of this race. All right, Dr. Phil is in the pits to repair damage to that car, and they now have hards on, so he'll run that to the end, but Dr. Phil's now going to be roughly half a lap down compared to the rest of the field.
Second lap in from the restarts, and Schumacher is already out of the DRS range from Snake.
Herbago, Dragonborn in a fight for 5th position. A little bit of touch, and Dragonborn goes off circuit. Herbago is by. Earlier in the season, when Dragonborn first got in, Dragonborn was kind of like the biggest thorn in the sides for the McLarens, but last week at COTA, and now this week here at Mexico, it seems like the McLarens have gotten over whatever issue Dragonborn has been. Oh, that damaged front wing is just killing Dragonborn now. He is 6, but he is on soft tires. He's going to have to pit soon, but in addition, he is losing time and now gaining time penalties in the Essex. He can't keep the car properly on the track. But this has turned into a positive for the McLarens because right now, we're shaping up to see the McLarens take home another big chunk of points in the manufacturer's fight.
4th and 5th, that'd be 22 points. And Herbago, the 119.984. So make that
Here
23.
comes Zola on Snake. This is for 2nd. And he's got him. But DRS will now be in favor of the Mercedes behind. I guess DRS doesn't enable on the back straight. On the back straight, here comes Meerkat
on the attack. And he gets fended off.
Dragonborn makes his stop now, and he has dropped to dead last on the hard tire compounds. He'll have good wing, and he'll be able to take these tires to the end of this race. But Flavor has gone around. Flavor. Zola has gone around in the S's. Oh, yeah, but this is going to kill. Yeah, this is going to kill the Red Bulls, and Flavor as well in the Ferrari is also going to get by Zola and go back into the points, and Herbago has just gone by Mantic Meerkat. Meerkat was caught so off guard by it that he actually backed off in the S's, and now Herbago is in 3rd. Herbago is on a recovery drive right now, people.
And he really is making the most of it. And he is catching Snake real fast.
Thing is, Herbago doesn't have much ERS left, so Snake will have potentially a DRS advantage on the following straight.
Oh, that is not a really good exit for the Mercedes driver.
Yeah, and Herbago has the DRS still because Herbago is behind Snake at the DRS detection point. Oh, and Snake is going to miss the corner, and here comes Meerkat. Meerkat's by. The McLarens are back to being 2 and 3rd in the podiums. This is going to be an amazing day for the McLarens and the manufacturers. Nothing can stop them. It doesn't matter if Schumacher is winning the race. You take the 18 points from finishing 2nd and the 15 points from finishing 3rd. The McLarens are going to close even more in the manufacturers championship right now.
Makes that a +1 since Herbago does have the fastest lap.
fight further back as Dragonborn is going to try and get by Zakal here at the top of the circuit. Herbago keeps going faster and faster. There is nothing that these McLarens can not do right now, it seems. Both of them have been in some rough positions. Herbago, mind you, was involved in an incident that dropped them all the way back, but now, at this stage in the race, the Red Bulls are the one out of the points, as the McLarens, who are in perfect position manufacturers fight-wise. Yes, Schumacher is going to probably lock up the championship with this win, if he can hold on to the win, but these McLarens are absolutely blitzing it right now. And Snake, who's in fourth. Yeah, Snake has a tire advantage, but Snake doesn't have the pace to make anything of that tire advantage.
I'm tempted to say at least for now.
And look at this, 5th place, Veli, formerly known as Plastic Love. He's running 5th, so he's en route to another one of his great runs. And Higgs Boston, who started dead last, is running 6th on the track right now. Right now, everyone is on the tires that I think are going to take them to the end of this race. And yeah, everyone's good on fuel at this stage in the event. Kind of a gap between 10th and 11th on track. 10th is Flavor, 11th is Dr. Phil. But everyone from 11th on back to 14th have had to pit to repair damage or recover from a spin in some way or another. So 11th through 14th right now are kind of out of points paying contention unless Flavor completely falls off. Now, Flavor's not been very fast for a large chunk of the day today, but that was because he had a damage from Wheaton. Dr. Phil is trying to outrun a 60s. Dave has crashed out!
Dave is out. Turn 8 takes another victory.
We stay green, apparently.
Damn. I was expecting Turn 8 to be dangerous, but I wasn't expecting Turn 8 to be on a killing spree today. And that's a full-course yellow.
They waited a long time to announce it. They waited so long that the leaders did not get a chance to utilize it. The first one who gets to take advantage of it is going to be E. Diggity. So E. Diggity pits immediately, and I think he might be the only one of that front group that will be able to do it. So E. Diggity is setting himself up well. They are throwing on a new set of fresh mediums to go to the end. Now, Diggity will lose a position to Dr. Phil, but Diggity will spin out of the pits. Okay. That was interesting.
You know, I've said it before and I'll say it again. These cars are really throttle sensitive.
Yeah, especially here. Normally I see instance going into the pits, not out of it. Dragonborn pitting again. So Dragonborn wants fresh softs for this restart. But here's the big thing. Everyone in the top 8, top 9, still on the same set of tires that they were on earlier.
So now it's going to boil down to... It's going to boil down to whether the later pits for a set of softs or not. And if... Oh! The bailout maneuver.
Nope.
Almost tricked Herbago into going to pits.
Snake's pitting in 4th, though. Veli stays out. Higgs Boston stays out. And B-Tech 11 stays out. So Snake is the only one of the top 4 to pit, and he is putting on softs. And he is going to end up behind Flavor in 8th. I don't know how fast the softs are going to be to the end. We're probably looking at a restart with about 6-7 laps to go. So I have no doubt that Snake and then Dragonborn 13th will be the fastest 2 drivers on track, but I don't think Snake's in a position to fight for the win. Also, here's the other thing to consider. The top 3, Schumacher, Herbago, Meerkat, they are the only drivers on track with no time penalties. Schumacher has to solo hold off a pair of McLarens.
I mean, we're not in the late 80s, early 90s, so it should be easier.
I mean, you say that, but the McLarens have been bad fast in the straightaways. Schumacher hasn't really had to fight off anyone at the front. We don't know what Schumacher's actual pace defending against other cars are. This is the first time we're really going to have to see Schumacher fight a proper equal at the front of the field today, outside of the run down to turn 1. And this will go all sideways, because if Schumacher gets turned, spun or something, and Herbago wins, Herbago vaults himself back into possible championship contention, a strong championship contention. So it's not like Schumacher can just afford to be, whatever, to them. He needs to win because, again, Manufacturers' Championship is still on the line, and right now, Schumacher is basically trying to play with whatever pieces he's got to just keep things even. Because his teammates back there in 7th right now on worn mediums and will likely be eaten up by the drivers behind. Higgs Boston has now made a stop. I don't know what's going on there, but Higgs Boston waited a long time to make a stop. So this will likely drop him out of the top positions, but they're going to throw on soft tires for Higgs Boston. He is going to drop all the way down to the 10th position, though. This is going to get really interesting because now it's 3 drivers near the back of the grid who will have softs. But it looks like, unless something crazy happens, it's going to be a Ferrari or a McLaren winning this race just based off of pace and no time penalties for the top 3.
Also keep in mind, you were worried about the set of mediums on Schumacher's Ferrari to not last till the end of the race. Well, now he's got a couple of free laps of tire life in front of him, as long as he is behind the safety car.
Yeah, this is true. That, and he spent the entire run on the mediums in clean air as well, so that will also help extend the life of the mediums, while Herbago and Meerkat have been using them. So Schumacher probably does have a small advantage when it comes to tire life as well. We have seen this fight so many times this season, 1 Ferrari against 2 McLarens. Now normally, one of the McLarens end up ahead and one of the McLarens end up behind.
Oh. Is the safety car in this lap?
No, it's not. They're waiting for Dragonborn to catch up. No. So we're not going to go green until lap 31. So that will be a 6-lap restart, a 6-lap shootout to the end of this race. I'm curious if anyone else is going to take this extra lap to go ahead and make a stop. I'm thinking of someone like Zola or Zackel near the back of the grid who have nothing to really lose. Yeah, Zola does. Might as well jump in, throw on some soft tires, and be some of the fastest drivers to the end of this race. Well, we saw in the last restart a gigantic accident between Collie Boy and Dr. Phil. So it's not like these restarts are going to be nice and easy and clean. The fight's going to be at the front. Schumacher and Herbago was in the middle of a 3-wide fight along with Dragonborn going into turn 1 at the initial start. And Schumacher ended up ahead that time. This time, though, Herbago knows that Meerkat behind will do whatever he can to help Herbago out. That McLaren team, after the Baku race, where it was a little bit controversial that Meerkat won over Herbago, the 2 McLaren drivers talked it out. They agreed that to the end of the season, Meerkat will compromise his runs to help Herbago out in any way possible. So Herbago does not have to worry about any fights from behind. All he needs to do is set his sights ahead. The entire field's gathered up.
Safety car in this lap. We're about to go racing again. Oh! Mantic Meerkat now looking up and broke his front wing on the back end of Herbago.
Oh, Meerkat, now with that front wing damage, that's going to Okay, again, Herbago won't have to worry about being overtaken on the start, but now he's going to have Veli, Bitek, Glebin possibly putting a issue on him. Mantic might end up losing a bunch of positions as well due to that damaged front wing. So now it's just going to look like it will be one Ferrari versus one McLaren. Schumacher tried to catch Herbago sleeping. Herbago didn't get the greatest start, but it wasn't as bad as what Snake had earlier. Schumacher burning up all his ERS down the straight. This is going to give Herbago an advantage in DRS. Veli, Bitek, Glebin, both making moves on Meerkat here. Side by side for fourth.
Oh, and Dr. Phil's now in the fight. I believe he made
Dr.
two
Phil's
spots.
over Flavor already.
I believe he made up 2 spots in his first couple of turns.
Yes, he has. All right, so what about the fight up front? Herbago, 71% ERS, Schumacher, 60. So Schumacher's burned through a bunch of ERS trying to outrun Herbago into turn 1. It's worked. He's ahead of Herbago for now. Glebin loses a position of Dr. Phil now in the S's. Flavor is behind him, and Snake is behind Flavor. Snake is on nice, fresh, soft tires. He goes to the outside of Flavor, coming out of the S's. Drag race for the 7th position. And Snake's got it. Flavor does not have any speed whatsoever. Here comes Higgs Boston now for the position. And Dragonborn's coming as well. At the front, Schumacher, 60%. Herbago, 65%. He's burning on the ERS. He's got the draft out of Schumacher. Herbago is coming for the lead. Dr. Phil working on Veli for the 4th spot. Goes to the inside of the Williams, but again, Dr. Phil keeps running out all of his ERS super early on these restarts, and that's killed his ability to really continue his projection forward. This is not looking good for Schumacher. Herbago is mashing him bit by bit, and Herbago has an advantage in ERS, and he's going to have DRS on the following lap. Meerkat in 3rd with that wing damage has backed up the entire field, so it will be these two to the end of this race. These two have been the 2 dominant drivers all season long. The only reason Herbago is not in a stronger fighting position when it comes to the championship is because he missed a chunk of races early in the season and then had a strain of about 4 races in a row where he didn't take home any points. If not for that, these two fighting have been the biggest part of this entire XRLX3 season. And once again, with 5 races left, it is a Ferrari versus McLaren. And that is Snake who's gone around. Snake has fallen all the way back to 12th, and Higgs Boston has spun as well. Higgs Boston is going to fall out of the points. Sola gets by Ediggity, so both of the Red Bulls are both back in points-paying positions. Herbago still doesn't have DRS yet. DRS won't engage until they come out of Sector 2. But Herbago is within a second of Schumacher without issue. ERS-wise, Herbago has a 17% advantage over Schumacher in ERS, and he'll have DRS. This is looking like I think Herbago is going to make the drag race on Schumacher down the front straightaway this upcoming lap. Meerkat now 5 seconds out of the lead. But Veli, who is in 4th, has not been able to do anything to him, and Dr. Phil hasn't been able to project forward either.
Oh, this is looking better for Veli now.
Dr. Phil's crashed down the S's! And that's a full course yellow! Yellow flag is out on the circuit!
There's a safety car is out.
And this is going to kill Red Bull's chances for the manufacturers. Because although Zola is still within points-paying position, both of the Ferraris and both of the McLarens are in points-paying positions right now. And Meerkat has to pit. Meerkat is going to pit to repair that wing damage. They'll probably throw on some soft tires, but this is going to drop Meerkat out of the points.
Oh, that's going to drop him dead last, I believe.
And he's the only one who pitted. But we're on lap 34. This is going to be an extremely short safety car. I think we might only do this lap under yellow flag and then go green right afterwards.
Yeah, the problem is if we restart at lap 35 and DRS takes another 2
No
laps
DRS.
of activation, it's a 2-lap race shootout without DRS, and that is something Schumacher would want, with Rubago right behind him.
And look who's in third. That is Veli. Plastic Love. He has had several races this season where he has been on the same level as Schumacher and Herbago. Hasn't won yet this year, and it doesn't look like he's going to because he has time penalties where the top two do not. But Veli.
Looking at all time penalties, everybody from 3rd down to 7th, so from Veli to Zola, they're all in the same time bracket, so they are effectively fighting for positions now. Safety car in this lap.
Meerkat still hasn't caught the back of the grid. I think he'll just barely catch the rear. This could go interesting for Meerkat because Meerkat's going to be flying through the grid with really nice, warm, soft tires. Everyone ahead is going to have worn softs or very worn out mediums. Meerkat doesn't have any time penalties yet either. If Meerkat avoids damaging his front wing, we could see Meerkat make a crazy bonsai run, maybe all the way up into 5th or 6th. Oh, and Veli's turned Herbago! Veli turned Herbago coming out of the final corner! And that's going to open up for Schumacher!
That's a godsend from Schumacher, because now he is outside of the DRS range, even though
here's
it doesn't matter anymore.
Dragonborn on Veli drag race!
Oh.
He's by!
We were watching the fight for first place, but now there's another good fight for 3rd. Who will take
Dragonborn's soft tires haven't totally worn off yet. So he still has a shot. He's probably going to try and focus forward to drag to Herbago.
He is much faster than Veli, and I saw that at the exit of 3.
Yeah, Veli's on worn out medium tires. Dragonborn's on moderately worn softs. Zola had to pit. Zola's been involved in something. Here comes Meerkat on Higgs Boston trying to get his McLaren back in the point pay position. He is! Meerkat's in 10th. Higgs on the inside, not letting it by. Contact between the two.
Meerkat almost in the back end of Zacco in front of him.
Dragonborn has lost position to Veli. Side by side, contact between the two. Dragonborn ran Veli way off circuit, but Veli holds the position. Herbago is closing back in on Schumacher, but this is their last time down the front straightaway. There's not going to be any DRS. I think Schumacher might have this. Herbago dumps all of the ERS down the front straightaway. He gets within half a second, still has only 6% left. So Schumacher now has the ERS advantage, but Herbago is there. Veli has spun out of the top positions. Well out. Flavor is now in 5th. And Herbago nearly out of ERS. And Veli's crashed out. Veli is out of it. Veli will not finish this race. And it looks like neither of the Red Bulls are going to walk out here with points. Dragonborn 4 seconds out of the lead duo. Haas is going to take home a great finish, a 3rd and 4th. Ferrari is coming home to what might end up being a 1st and 5th or 1st and 6th, depending on how it goes. Final run into the stadium section. Herbago is right there behind Schumacher. He had a big incident from someone else turning him on the restart, but Herbago's clawed most of that time back. Not enough to do anything with, though. Meerkat's got him by Snake. Meerkat's got him recover all the way up into 7th. He'll keep McLaren's manufacturer hopes alive.
And Schumacher just won after a race of attrition for at least half of the field.
And in the end, it is Meerkat who jumps all the way to 4th. Oh, wow, that is going to be interesting for the manufacturer's fight. So that's, what, 30 points for the McLaren team. And then what, that's
16,
20, 31 or something?
That is 25 and, well, he finished 6th, so that is 8, 25, and that is 33, if I am correct. And Haas in third and fifth. That is 15 and 10. That is 25 points to the Haas team. But there's a good shake-up in the standings now.
But it looks like the Ferraris will eke out a slight advantage to their manufacturer's points lead right now. And your winner, Schumacher, did not put a tire on pretty much all day today. Although Herbago definitely made him honest near the end. It's not over. I do think championship-wise, though, I think Schumacher has locked up the title now, with Zola not taking home any points and Herbago only coming home second. 4 races left after this. That's 108 points left. No, Herbago is still in mathematical contention, but Herbago would need Schumacher to not get a single point for the rest of the season, while Herbago would need to take home every point to the end. So realistically, Herbago has locked up the title. I mean, Schumacher has locked up the title. All right, and coming in the party right now is our race winner, Schumacher SF7. Schumacher, go ahead, include your audio. A race of attrition that you basically didn't see any part of. A fantastic start to the fantastic day today. Include your audio. What do you have to say about your run today, mate? Schumacher, can you hear me?
My man's eating the toast of victory. Yeah. I mean, you surely deserve that after that dominant display during this race.
All right, go ahead, make sure your audio is included. You started with a pole position and led basically every lap except one thus far today, en route to what, for all intents and purposes, you have locked up the Drivers' Championship.
Yeah.
Fantastic job. What do you have to say about your run today?
It was a fantastic run. Under pressure from the McLaren behind. I don't know how he got spun on the last, because I think I would finish second if he didn't. Then, but I was doing a safety car restart, so I didn't know. But yeah, got pole just, and then just drove the car home. Really, that's the only thing I've done. So X3 a title to hopefully so coming my way when it gets confirmed. No incident reports, obviously. But yeah. Really happy.
Mathematically, mathematically, as far as I can tell, Herbago is within mathematical chances still. So you've not officially locked it up yet, if I'm understanding everything correctly. However, if Herbago was to win this championship at this stage of the season, you would need to not take home a single. And it does look like you guys in the Ferrari camp will add